Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dears. We will be discussing the topic what is language philosophically. So let's start with the video. Right now, something extraordinary is happening. I'm thinking something inside my mind, and somehow through air, through sound, through words, that thought is traveling into your mind. No wire, no cable, no physical connection between us, just language. We use it every single day at the breakfast table, in the classroom, on our phones, and we almost never stop to ask what exactly this thing we are using. That question, simple as it sounds, has occupied philosophers, linguists, and scientists for centuries, and it is exactly where our course begins. Today, we are talking about the first major part of this course. What is language? Before we go to the book, let's start with what you already know. If I ask a common man, what is language? He or she would probably say it is how we talk to each other. And honestly, he would not be wrong. That intuition is the foundation of every academic definition we are about to study in this video. Language, at its most basic, is how human beings connect with one another. It is how a mother tells her child she loves them. It is how a doctor explains the diagnosis, and it is how a poet makes a strange feel understood. But linguistics, the scientific study of language, needs something more precise, more accurate, and more standard. So let's define language. Within linguistics, several definitions have been put forward by different philosophers. Let's explain some of them. Bussmann, Routledge Dictionary: language is a vehicle for expressing and exchanging thoughts, concepts, knowledge, and information, and for fixing and transmitting experience across time. The simple version is language is a carrier. It carries meaning from one mind to another mind and from one generation to another generation. Edward Sapir, 1921, language is a purely human and non-instinctive method of communicating ideas, emotions, and desires by means of voluntarily produced symbols. The keywords here: non-instinctive, we choose our words; voluntarily produced, we decide what to say and what not. Now David Crystal, 1989, language is human vocal noise used systematically and conventionally by a community for communication. The keywords: systematically, language follows rules, it is not a random sound. And then conventionally, a community agrees on what words mean. That is why pani means water in Urdu and agua means water in Spanish. Now the Poole's synthesis, a form of human communication by means of systems of symbols principally transmitted by vocal cords. This brings everything together: human plus symbolic plus systematic plus communicated through speech or symbols. Notice what every single definition shares. Three elements appear again and again. Language is human, it is systematic, and it is communicative. Remove any of these three and you will no longer have language in full sense. And Bussmann adds one more layer that is worth pausing on. Language is cognitive. It is shaped by how we talk in the society. And it is a living system. It changes from time to time. Now what about the language word? It is a habit that I want you to develop as well. When you study a concept, trace the word itself. Where does the word language actually come from? What did it mean before it reached us? Think of it like archaeology. Every word has layers beneath it. Let us dig out. In Latin, it was used as lingua, that meant tongue or speech. Then in French, language is used that meant speech, word, or oratory. In Middle English and then in Modern English, language word is used and it means speech, the current form. All three historical forms carry essentially the same core meaning: speech and tongue. This is not a coincidence. It tells us something. For most of human history, language was understood as speech first. Writing came thousands of years later. It is a technology built on top of language, not the other way around. When Sapir said language is primarily auditory, primarily about sound, he was reflecting this deep historical truth. So when you read a textbook, you are engaging with a representation of language when you speak. When you open your mouth and words come out, you are engaging with language in its oldest, most original form. Speech is not a version of writing. Writing is a version of speech. Now the big unanswered question. The question is, what was the first language? How did first human being produce the first meaningful word? How did sound become meaning? Scholars have been wrestling with this question for centuries, and I want to be honest with you. We still do not have any final answer, but the attempts to answer it are themselves deeply illuminating and very interesting. Let's discuss. The first, the religious perspective. Now, some scholars reference the Tower of Babel account in the book of Genesis. In this narrative, all of humanity once shared a single language. Linguistic diversity came as divine consequence. This is a theological explanation, and it reflects how deeply humans have always sensed that language is something extraordinary, something that requires explanation beyond ordinary science. Scientific and rational theories. Albeck Framework 1998. Albeck identifies four major theoretical positions that scholars have developed through rational and scientific inquiry. The first, continuity theory. Language is far too complex to have appeared suddenly and fully formed. It must have evolved gradually from simpler pre-linguistic forms of communication, for example, animal calls, gestures, emotions, other sounds, and then language is formed slowly and gradually. Just as a child does not speak in a full sentence on their first day, language itself grew slowly over thousands of years. This is continuity theory. Now, the discontinuity theory, language is so uniquely human that it could not be a simple extension of animal communication or from some sounds. It must have appeared suddenly, perhaps through a genetic leap or a major cognitive shift in human evolution. This position has been associated with Chomsky's idea that humans have a special biological capacity for language, that other animals simply do not possess that capacity. Now, the third one in this theory is the innate genetic theory. Language is hardwired into human biology. We are born prepared for it. Every healthy child in every culture, in every corner of the world, acquires language naturally, without any formal education. A child in Karachi and a child in Tokyo will both be speaking fluently by the age of 5, not because they were taught grammar rules, but because their brains were built for it. The fourth, the cultural or the social theory. Language is learned, not hardwired. It is a social tool acquired through interaction and community. The evidence is children raised in complete isolation do not develop language. They need human contact, conversation, community to interact with. You speak Urdu or Pashto or Punjabi not because of your genes, but because of who raised you, where you grew up. Which theory is correct? Most contemporary linguists believe the honest answer involves both nature and nurture. Human beings are biologically prepared for language. That capacity is innate, but the specific language we speak, the accent we carry, the words we choose, all of that is shaped entirely by our social world, our social environment. Biology gives us the capacity, community gives us the content. The last hypothesis, Muller hypothesis 1996. Muller went further and proposed specific hypotheses about how language might have first emerged. from imitation of natural sounds, from emotional exclamation, from rhythmic sounds of physical labor. These are creative and interesting proposals, but Muller himself and scholars after him acknowledged that these ideas remained hypotheses, educational guesses, and nobody knows how language originated or what was the first language. Let's bring today's lesson together. We asked one question: what is language? And we found three answers, each going deeper than the last. First, language is defined as a human, systematically communicative phenomena. It is not random, it is not instinct, it is voluntarily produced by human beings in a specific community. Second, the world itself tells us something. From Latin lingua to Old French language to Middle English and Modern English, at every stage the core meaning is speech. Language at its origin is sound with meaning. The third, where language came from. It is a great open question for all human beings. Continuity, discontinuity, nature or nurture, biology or society. The honest answer is probably all of these working together for the origin of language. Here is the single most important idea I want you to carry from today. Language is not just a tool that humans happen to use. It is the very medium through which human society, knowledge, and culture exist. Without language, there is no philosophy, no science, no poetry. You are not just studying words, you are studying the most distinctly human thing there is. In our next lecture, we move from what language is to what language does. We will study the characteristics of language, the features that make it unique, powerful, and unlike any other communication system in the natural world. If today's lecture was useful, share it with your class fellows, with your friends who need it. Leave your questions in the comments. Until next time, think clearly, speak carefully. Thank you so much.